Welcome to Tanya Today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you back home, Chabad Zuchen Gedeshim in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. As we greet this morning Robert in Boston, Shalom. Asher is with us in Memphis, Tennessee. Boker Tov. Diane in Connecticut. Welcome. Jan is with us in Mexico. Vavyut in Ontario. Susan in Scranton, Pennsylvania. John in North Carolina. Welcome. George, Shalom. Jay in, you have to remind me. Tim, Boker Tov to you in Texas. Omar, good morning. What else do we have here? Zar in Malaysia and your community in Brooklyn. Okay. Virginia in Calgary. Good morning. David is in California bright and early. Welcome. Liba and Denise. Good morning. Good morning in New York. Merrill. Welcome. Stan. Welcome to you. Good afternoon to you in London, England. Natine is shalom to you in Canada. Andrea in Phoenix is with us. Katie in Texas. Who else is joining us? Maureen in Holland. Welcome. Lori in Charlotte, North Carolina. Rachel is in Beersheba in Israel. Oh, beautiful. Thank you for joining. We have on Clubhouse Vilma and Batya, David, Michelle, Tenny, Darren, Tim, Adam, Margot, Celeste, Boss, Instagram. We have Andy in Brazil with us, Yenta Telabenta. We have Chaim from Montreal, I think. Nathan, Avram, Akoy in Peru, and some others maybe I can't make out. We conclude today the 29th letter. Understanding, reincarnation we dealt with. We spoke about how through a mitzvah we are embraced by the divine will through an act of doing a mitzvah, the action of it, and that was the pillars that are hollow, that like a hollow light that encompasses the individual, as a pillar is rooted in holding up the building, holding up the home, rooted and firmed in the ground, the lowest level, action, the lowest form of human engagement, as opposed to speech, thought, feelings, and thought, and intelligence. We discussed that. We discussed it yesterday, 2 levels in Gan Eden, in Garden of Eden. Now we're going to come and bring this all together. We started off with a phrase from King Solomon, and that phrase is, a woman of valor. Sorry. A woman of valor is the crown of her husband. So, and that was a metaphor we explained. Now, what we have explained is there's a supernal will of God. And that is expressed, as we mentioned, in 620 beams of light, pillars of light rather, right? That are basically fulfilling or filling our soul, that has 613 components. So why 620 pillars of light? Is because there's 7 rabbinic laws that are offshoot of the 613. So let's stick with the 613 right now. There are 613 specific desires that God has, and they're the 613 commandments, 248 positive and 365 negative commandments. By the way, we learn them in Rambam every day in Maimonides. So now let's understand. When we look at the written word in the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, which tells us, for example, to put on tefillin. It's very obscure, that mitzvah. It says, and you shall bind them on a sign on your hand, and they shall be for frontlets between your eyes. That's a very obscure statement. It doesn't explain what does it mean between your eyes, what does it mean on your hand. The only reason we understand how to do the mitzvah is not from the written word, but because of the oral Torah. The oral Torah tells us we need to bind on our hand 1 single box, on our head a compartment, 4 compartments, and the head tefillin, and they contain 4 scriptural passages. Moreover, the boxes have to be prepared from leather, and they necessarily need to be square. They need to have black leather straps. And when we say on our hand, we mean on our arm, not our palm. When we say between our eyes, it doesn't mean on the forehead, but on the scalp. Likewise, when it comes to the laws of Shabbos, it says that you shall do no work. Don't do any work. What does work mean? It doesn't tell us what work is. It's obscure. It doesn't specify. Only the oral tradition does, and tell us that there's 39 forms of labor. So now we can understand what King Solomon said in Mishlei, Proverbs. Don't cast off your mother's teachings. You should heed your father's teachings, but don't cast off your mother's. Well, what does that mean? Like heed your father. Well, because father and mother here are a metaphor. Father is the written word of Torah. So heed it, because there it gives you 613 commandments. Well, the problem is, how do I heed it when when it doesn't tell us how to do it? Don't cast off your mother's teachings. Your mother is a metaphor for the oral tradition. Now, why is it that way? Well, biologically, a man gives the seed, and in the seed is the entire child. However, you don't get much of a child just from the seed of the father. But the 9 months of gestation in the mother's womb, that seed develops, of course with mother's egg, but for the use of the metaphor here, is developed into 248 organs, 365 sinews, into a fully developed child, ultimately a baby that comes out, right? So in other words, mother is a metaphor of the complete development, the complete fulfillment of that which is obscure, completely hidden, heart of Torah teachings, the written word that comes from the Father. And this is therefore what it means: a woman of valor is the crown of her husband. The woman being here, the oral Torah, is what crowns the woman of valor. She gives birth. She gives birth to and raises many legions, meaning many Jewish laws, because it's in the oral tradition where we have a manifestation of the supernal will of God, because without that we would not know how to lead a Jewish life in fulfillment of the word of God, to heed his word, which it says it in the written Torah. It says, not to work on Shabbos. It says that they should be frontlets between your eyes, and a sign on your arm. Okay, what does that mean? How do we fulfill that? Again, that's why we have the written word that brings to manifestation. So the supernal will, which, if you recall, is the crown, because the will in a person is greater than even their intelligence. Because you can have a lot of understanding and intelligence in something, but if you have no desire, no will, you won't engage. You just don't want, even though you understand how important something is. So the will encompasses everything. And therefore, metaphorically, it's like a crown. So it's even greater than the supernal wisdom of God, which is, the crown is greater than the brain, than the intelligence. Meaning that the written word is the wisdom of God, but the crown, the divine will of God, is in the Jewish law that illuminates, manifests what that divine wisdom is as it's written in the Torah. It reveals the supernal will of God. Therefore, someone who studies Jewish law assures themselves a share in the world to come. Specifically that. Because that way you know what God needs from you to do. Without that, you would, maybe be inspired, maybe be moved. But you would know what you got to do. You wouldn't know what to do in life. Absolutely. So, by investing the Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama in the supernal will, as we stated, we do a few things when we engage in the supernal will of God through the study of Jewish law, of halacha. We create a garment for the soul, that the soul then can have a great pleasure, divine pleasure in the world to come. When we do it, we're incorporated in that funnel of light, or that pillar of light that encompasses us, that connects us to the divine will. So specifically, again, through the study of the law. Now, okay. So let's unpack this. And to begin with, the beautiful metaphor of male and female. And by the way, every man has female qualities, every female has male qualities, just as biologically we have, we have The question is just which ones are stronger, right? Which ones are more powerful and more manifest, more of, um, determines a distinction. But a distinction there is. And we need to preserve that distinction and appreciate what everybody gives to this. So here we have something that, is that the woman of valor is the crown of her husband. See, and interesting how even in creation, you start with the man, and then the woman is even though they were side by side, whatever, separated, but you start with the man, and then the woman comes from a part of something, the side of the man, right? And ultimately brings an enhancement. So likewise here, we're starting off with the male, the written word, but then we need the enhancement to that. We need to manifest it. What is it? Where does that come from? The female component, the woman, adds to it in a way that without it, you have nothing. You almost have like a meaningless teachings of the Torah in a sense. In a sense, yeah, it would be that. So that's just interesting to note. Furthermore, just another interesting point. Why does it have to be that way? Well, on a simple level, is that way you always have to be connected to a previous teacher, previous generation. Because since the Torah has the oral tradition, well, you need a teacher, a mentor, who teaches you, who that teacher got from their teacher, all the way back to Moses, who got from God, the oral tradition. Now, truth be said, the oral tradition today is written down in the Talmud, in Jewish law, yet the lost for a word, but it'll come to me hopefully. The meaning, the thought behind this is that you need to have you always need someone that you, as your teacher, your mentor, someone who's guiding you, and that you're not just taking it on your own and learning it on your own, and not only deciding Jewish law on your own, but just anything of a Jewish nature, to do it on your own. That's another thing, byproduct or an important idea that comes out of this. And what else? And the bottom line, how important it is that we study the Jewish law and it's all of its details. Now, by the way, that's an invite for 1 o'clock today to learn Rambam, Maimonides. And for those who've been studying, know the details that goes on over there. Oh my gosh, you really need to be focused and to use your mind and to be able to distinguish between different ideas and thoughts in Jewish law. It is not a simple thing, but that's part of the oral tradition that is manifesting, teaching the teachings in legions of Jewish law, of halacha. All right. Some beautiful thoughts over here. Questions, comments, thoughts, please share with me. Tavita, I don't see anything on Facebook. Right. Missed something, please let me know. Don't see anything on Instagram. Michelle, please share with us.
Hello, Rabbi.
Hello.
Good morning. First of all, I must apologize with my background noise. I'm using my coffee shop as an office at the moment, so please bear with me. You mentioned something that stood out to me, and I just wanted you to explain it further. You said the will is greater than the intelligence, the desire is more powerful than the intelligence, and then you said it is the crown. Could you please explain that?
Sure. So, crown means encompassing. Crown means encompassing. That's the concept. Encompasses the head, beyond the head. So, and it works, desire works in a different manner than our other qualities. First of all, in Hebrew it's called ratzon. Ratzon, will. Ratz, it comes from the word ratz, means to run. It's the first manifestation of the soul, is the will, that you have a desire for something. Why do you have the desire? Just because. A desire. It's the first thing that runs from the soul, that it comes forth from the soul, and when you have a desire for something, you kind of run after it, right? That's where the idea. And it's something that's not integrated within the sort of the integrated system of intelligence and emotions. Intelligence feeds your emotions, develops emotions, right? A little child understands very minimally, and therefore they desire, childish things, a lollipop, right? Just with my granddaughter, desiring a lollipop. Then your intelligence matures, then you desire, more sophisticated things, more hopefully valuable and important things in life, right? So that's integrated. In other words, our intelligence feeds our emotions, develops, and we have therefore an emotion for things that are greater because of the greater intelligence we have, right? All the people that are here have a greater developed intelligence in the fact that they understand the value of Tanya, and that therefore develops them emotionally, right? Just by your understanding of Tanya, develops you emotionally. And that's all good and fine, except what happens if you understand how good Tanya is and you even have a feeling towards it, but you woke up this morning, and I guess I'm not talking to anybody here because you're here. I don't have a desire. I just don't have a desire to learn. I know how important it is. Well, if I know how important it is, how come that's not creating a desire? It can sometimes, but not. It doesn't necessitate it. Intelligence necessitates that your emotions will become more developed, right? The greater the intelligence, the more developed and will be your emotions. But it doesn't. But if I have no desire to learn Tanya, heaven forbid, right? Then my intelligence has been nixed. My emotions have been nixed. Meaning, it's not part of an integrated system. It is like the crown that's beyond, so it's encompassing, and therefore, I don't want. Doesn't matter what my intelligence and emotions will say to me. Now, maybe I truly don't want, and therefore you could be convinced. But I'm saying, you don't want. So you need to have your emotions, and not emotions. I mean your will, your desire, constantly there for you, then to use intelligence and emotions to be engaged in something. So that's why it's encompassing, because it's got to be all along. The desire has to be there. No, just think about it. Kids are playing hide and seek. All of a sudden, one of the kid says, "I don't want to play anymore." Lost the desire. They just walk away. Or, some people come to the class over here and have no desire. They just, leave the class. Fine. Nothing against someone doing that. Just using it as a metaphor. But if you have the desire and it's constantly there, then it'll engage the intelligence and the emotions and, and so on. So that's the distinction. Intelligence and emotions are integrated within the person. Desire, so to speak, metaphorically speaking, is like the crown beyond the person, beyond being that it's not an integrated system, that it is sort of all-encompassing. I hope that helped, Michelle.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. That was wonderful. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay, just give me a moment here. I have some questions. Davida has a question. Where is it? When Mashiach comes and everything is revealed, will we be learning the written and the oral Torah in the same way? We'll learn it on a much more sublime level. We'll learn it, the inward teachings. We won't have to learn. Actually, this was in the previous. In letter 26. In the 26th letter, I think it was there. Yeah. So we will learn from the inside out. And now we have to learn the law so we know what to do. But in times of Mashiach, where evil will be eradicated, Kalipa will not have the hold on us as it does in times of exile, of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and therefore we don't need to refine that element of the world, and we will have that refinement, and therefore we'll be able to learn, we'll be able to learn Tanya, and from there, from the inside, know the outside, so to speak. Okay. In their Amnesia talks about the androgynous people, which does these attributes do they have? How does the symbolism reflect in them? Not certain. I don't know. Greg, how does the woman of valor relate to Proverbs 31? I don't know offhand. Sorry, I don't have a book of Proverbs in front of me to check that, so I can't answer that. Sorry. Simcha, how would you describe a woman of valor? Read it tonight. We sing Eishes Chayil, a woman of valor. It's beautiful. I sing it every night for my wife. So um, all the details are there. So so Davida, I don't know. We'll have to wait and find out. We'll learn it, and we'll learn it once, and we'll know it. It won't be such a struggle as it is now. At least for me. Eliana, please share with us.
Yes. Actually, a couple of questions. One, how does Amuna relate to Ratzon? Does Ratzon, begat our Amuna, or when we have Amuna, does that increase our Ratzon?
That's a good question. Um, I think it was in the one of the first letters that we learned that actually by learning Torah and also the oral Torah specifically, that girds our loins, if you recall, and loins are the faith that we have. That's the metaphor. This also comes from woman of valor. Ha! We say it tonight in the woman of valor in Eishes Chayil. So she girds her loins with strength. Strength is Torah. Loins is what holds up the body, and that's faith. That's a metaphor for faith. So Torah study, the oral Torah specifically, is giving strength to faith, that when we strengthen our faith, that's how we can hopefully create a will, a stronger will, or to create a will, or to strengthen our will. I think that's the method. I'd have to think more about that, but that's a very good question, Eliana.
Thank you. And then just one other one. In kind of relation to what you said, Torah is, the loin. Can you just explain over time? Obviously, it's the men that have been able to study Torah in, as a formal study. How does, over time and in the past, where did a woman learn her Torah? Is it just passed down orally, or is there, it wasn't relatively until recent that you could, openly study Torah?
Right. So the woman, ties in with the oral tradition, is about manifesting the will of God. So what she needs to specifically oblige to study is anything to do with enhancing, fulfillment of the will of God. So that's in the mitzvahs that relate to her in that respect. But also, by the way, the love and awe of God is a mitzvah, and faith in God, all these things. And therefore, studying of Tanya or studying Hasidic teachings, a woman has an equal obligation to a man, because in those areas, there isn't a distinction. There's a distinction in some mitzvahs that women are not obliged to fulfill. But when it comes to the internal makeup of the person, when it comes to, the deeper connection to God through Torah mitzvahs, so that deeper connection, love and awe, And faith, a woman is similar to a man and has the obligation in that manner. So, and that's true that it's more recent. Or first of all, Hasidic teachings is only recent, last couple hundred years, and since then it's evolved in our times now more than ever. That's a different discussion. We'll get more into another time. But very good point. Very good point.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Okay, I got to go teach elsewhere. So, I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, wishing you a wonderful day. Good day of Shabbos, wonderful Shabbos. We'll continue 1 o'clock today with the Rambam. Please come and join us on Zoom, 770-770-6085. Again, 770-770-6085, or on Chabad ZK Facebook. And we'll continue our conversation and learning together. I'm Tanya. Sunday morning it'll be at 10:30. God bless you all. Wonderful day. Good Shabbos.